Well, good afternoon, everybody, and thank you for your patience in waiting for me to get us started today. A little bit of a glitch in my matrix, but I'm here. I'm glad to be able to introduce to you today, for anyone who doesn't know him yet, Councillor Aidan Farrelly. Aidan is running for the Social Democrats. He's got some extremely big shoes to fill because obviously, as we all know, Catherine Murphy is departing the political stage. Well, she's semi-departing. She's actually not going to be completely gone. But Aidan is the man of the hour for the Social Democrats at the moment. He is a county councillor for the Clane local electoral area. He was selected in as the Social Democrats candidate for Kildare North at their selection convention. He was born and raised in Clane, County Kildare, lives in Prosperous with his wife Aisling and three children. I have their names here, but I won't, just in case. I won't go there because, with kids, you can't be too careful. In his professional background, well, he worked with Kildare Youth Services for 16 years. He established Clane's first youth project in 2008. He is a lecturer in the Department of Applied Social Studies at Maynooth University. And I don't mind telling you, the last time I caught up with Aidan, we had to wiggle our schedules around a bit because Aidan was about to submit his PhD. So I'll ask him about that and see if he actually get it in and where that's at. His political priorities are at housing affordability, availability, public services, education, childcare, youth services. We'll talk a little bit about that. So that's the CV. That's the kind of the stuff you can look up. What you can't look up, as is the case with any of these interviews, is what's he like. Let's get a feel for him. And so without further ado, I will invite Aidan to say hello and give us a little bit of information about the real Aidan Farrelly. How are you?
I'm good. I'm really good. I'm really happy to be here and have the opportunity to chat again, Tressa. Thanks so much for this. I've been really looking forward to this. When the selection happened during the summer, one of the things that was part of the campaign that I was really looking forward to was this interview, because I know the impact that they have and the value that they're held in within the communities in North Kildare. So I'm really grateful to have the chance to come and join you this morning.
Oh, you're most welcome. What a lovely thing to say. Talk to us a little bit about how's the campaign going so far. I mean, you're a new name to some, not everybody. I mean, I'd obviously be familiar with who you are, but that's just because I'm a nerd. Just talk to us a little bit about what you've been working on as a councillor for the last little while and give people a flavour of where your focus is.
Yeah, I mean, the campaign has been going really, really positively so far, I have to say. If I'm not knocking on the door, chances are Catherine's knocking on the door. And for many, it's been an opportunity to thank Catherine for her service over the last number of years. So it's been really positive and upbeat. And I think many people in Celbridge or Leixlip or Kilcock or Maynooth, for example, really can reflect on Catherine's time and support and encouragement and raising the issues and asking the questions with real vigor. And I think that's something that when people say the shoes that I have to fill, I think it really comes back to that. It's the approach to politics, to asking the right questions, to getting the answers. So it's been a really positive campaign so far. I kind of got drawn into politics from my youth work experience, really, working in youth projects around the county, working with groups of young people who kind of systematically had the same issues and concerns all the time and never really felt like systematically something was changing. And I kept encouraging them. I said, use your voice, make sure you get out and seek that change. And then I'd go home and do nothing myself about it. So I said, you know what, in 2019, I said, looking at what Catherine had started in the Social Democrats, I said, there's maybe a party that might fit my values. And look, we're a young party. We're really growing in momentum, I think. And I'd like to think that we have something real to offer the electorate in this coming election. But my priorities over the last number of years in council have kind of come back to the idea of community and the notion that we've had considerable housing growth, which is to be really commended. I mean, there are many constituencies where the housing hasn't come. I think it's fair to say in Kildare North, the housing really has come. But what we probably haven't seen in tandem with that is the delivery of what is essential public infrastructure. So our GPs, our playgrounds, our school places, those types of services are really, really important. And that's kind of where a lot of my focus has been since elected in 2019.
Sorry, no, don't let me cut you off.
No, that's kind of, yeah, of course.
Well, I was just going to come back to. We're going to talk about those the kind of the lack of social infrastructure. But I just want to ask you a direct question, and I there's two things in my mind at the same time. you are emerging from the Social Democrats Party to be the constituency representative for Social Democrats, and it's a new generation of representation for North Kildare. I'm conscious of two things. I'm conscious that you as an individual have to put yourself out there and get that name recognition and kind of keep going. It's Aidan Farrelly now for North Kildare, but you're in the shadow of Catherine's history, so it's along the lines of having those boots to fill. But how do you plan to maintain the trust and support that has come before you, I suppose, that Catherine has generated? What can you do to reassure Social Democrats voters that yes, it's a change of person, but the strengths that people might recognise in Catherine's leadership will be carried forward into the next term if you're successful?
I have to earn that trust. To be really direct, I'm asking people to trust me next Friday, and I will prove to them in the next coming years that their support for me and for the Social Democrats will be well earned. I really acknowledge that what Catherine has built in her reputation has built over time, and I have to expect and look forward to going through that same process of being able to prove to the people of Kildare North that over time I will represent you, your family, and our community in a way that's kind of founded in integrity, in sincerity. I'm not really into politics for the headlines or for the. I like to get my hands dirty on issues and really kind of get to the heart of some of them. And I think that's kind of been Catherine's approach and the party's approach ultimately in the last number of years. I think the 120 bus route is kind of an example of that, where that process changed from bus Éireann to go ahead a number of years ago, and it was proven to be really, really challenging. And I kind of wanted to, instead of just giving out with press releases and complaining and expect, I actually wanted to see the change and brought community groups together, met with Go Ahead constructively over a series of months, built a relationship to see that to come to the point where that service has now really, really improved. It's that type of approach that we've taken. I want to be constructive. I think it's very easy to just criticize and just challenge, but I want to inspire hope that and optimism that things can be better. And for many reasons, things are quite good for a lot of people right now. And I'm really happy to accept that there are certain things in Irish society that are working really well. But we also can't just pat ourselves on the back. I think there are some fundamental flaws in a modern society that I think we can improve. But Catherine has taught me and all the councillors in Kildare everything that we know about how to be public representatives. We have learned from her every step of the way, and with time, I really hope to be able to prove to people that they can trust me in the way that they trusted her.
Well, that is a humble and a thorough answer, and I appreciate that. And the councillors in North Kildare who have learned things from Catherine Murphy are not alone, because I myself have taken lessons from watching Catherine in action. I suppose in brief, to summarize what you've said, it's about earning the trust, less grandstanding and more detailed, active work to progress things, not just shouting about the problems and getting the publicity for that. Well, that is certainly her MO. She was most certainly a detailed person. She loves a good FOI, to that, Catherine.
Yeah, absolutely.
Tell me, at the one of the televised debates on Monday night, RTE, Ivana Bacik mentioned that there were discussions or there were thoughts going about an alliance of the left having a chat before supporting a government proposal or a government formation of any description. I was surprised at that, because there hasn't really been a public conversation about the left becoming less splintered, more cohesive, and potentially more effective. Talk to me about how you feel about the comments that Ivana Bacik made, and what does that mean for you? Where are the Social Democrats in terms of alliance or blocking for government formation purposes in the aftermath of the actual election itself?
Yeah, I think it's really challenging, and you said it yourself. You're a bit of a nerd when it comes to this. I really am as well, and I really love the campaigning side of it. And I've noticed over the last couple of campaigns that kind of a week out, people tend to start moving the narrative a little bit. So I've been really struck by some of the comments that have come out, because equally you've Alan Kelly from Labour almost paving the path to becoming a minister at cabinet again. And so I think there's a bit of confliction going on there within the Labour Party. I think some people think it's a bit of a fait accompli that they will be the third party in a Fine Gael, Fianna Fáil led government. So I'm not sure, going back to that idea of kind of symbolic communication or grandstanding, I'm not sure how sincere those comments are with regards to conversations on the left. But I think what's so important is that not one vote has been cast yet. And certainly I've had to and loved prioritising solely the Kildare North campaign. And I think anything that comes after that is if and when the people have made their decision about what their preference is first, and then it's up to us. We've ruled nobody in or out. I think that's the most effective way to approach it, because we don't know what the people will choose.
That's true. You haven't ruled any parties in or out, or certainly I haven't seen evidence of it, but you have drawn a number of red lines. You are one of the red lines for the Social Democrats in any decision about partnering with government or to help form a government is that there is a Minister for Disabilities, Sláinte Care implementation, I beg your pardon, and a number of other red lines. Is that going to be an inhibition? I mean, I'm sure you wouldn't want to go into government as the smaller party in a coalition, perhaps, and then get swallowed up and spat out by it. And we've seen that happening a couple of times. And Labour have been on the rude end of that stick as well. Talk to me about those red lines and what it's going to really mean. I mean, to my mind, the left need to do something to, I suppose, to combine the shared voting intention of such a sizable portion of the electorate votes left, and a sizable portion of the electorate votes on the centre right, for example, if you want to put it that way, Fine Gael and Fianna Fáil. But is the left just to remain in this weird position of being the perpetual opposition element to things? Talk to me about those red lines and whether or not Social Democrat really wants to be in government.
I'm knocking on doors asking people to vote for me to become a government TD. I want the policies that we have crafted and researched and developed. I want them implemented, and I really, really do. But there's also the realistic approach, which is that it's a numbers game. And on a great day, we would hope to double what we have in Leinster House. I mean, that would be a phenomenal day for us, and we think it's doable. We have some just excellent candidates in the field. But from a Social Democrats perspective, we would like to think that we're building something here. We are building something as a consequence of our history. And we've seen that there is a huge interest in and support for what we're trying to champion. But also it's a bit of a complicated spectrum, that kind of centre left and left ideology. And
it is. It brings me to another question. This is not one that I wrote down, but it's just occurred to me. Should Social Democrats have run two candidates in North Kildare, given the strength of the Social Democratic vote here, and given the fallout, the declaration of Bill Clear to run as independent, when obviously he was in the family until then, and I know it was painful for him. He has wished you well, by the way, in our interview. I'm not sure if you caught it. Should the Social Democrats have run a second candidate here?
Chasa, I was kind of so wrapped up in the kind of process of trying to become the candidate that I left the strategy of the overall constituency to the people who know an awful lot more about this than I do. I think there are so many unknowns in politics. I'm very, very grateful to be in the position that I am the candidate for the Social Democrats this time around. That's not to say in the future, if we continue to build and to grow, that we can't look at a second candidate into the future. And I really want to take the opportunity to sincerely, we were texting last night, to wish Bill the very, very best. You know, I really, really mean that. I think we, as councillors, never mind the real influence that Catherine has had, but as a team of councillors with Nuala and Peter and Claire, over the last couple of years, we have built something I think that's constructive and positive. And we are where we are, I think, this time, and really excited at the prospect of keeping a Social Democrat voice and the work ethic of Catherine in this constituency. I genuinely, when we talk about issues like Castletown now, it's so important that someone can take that approach to really do the dirty work, and to really look at the cause of stuff. But in terms of a two-candidate strategy this time around, the party chose that it was in the best interest to try and hold that one seat.
And you're keeping your eye on the prize with that decision behind you. Well, that's okay. I want to talk about the social infrastructure issues. It has come up in every interview in one form or another. Um, and I suppose I'm finding myself, to be perfectly honest, bored of talking about it. But the reason I'm
Okay.
bored of talking about it is because I'm bored of thinking about it for the last over 10 years I've been in Celebrate. So I want to talk about it, but I want to tell you, I suppose, outright that I have, as a citizen, I have run out of patience on this stuff. So I've covered elections. I talk about this a lot. I look at the stats. I pull the numbers. It's what I do for fun. God help us all. God help my poor husband as well. Um, but I'm really tired of it. And what I've found is a series of interviews with the best meaning in the world and with the best intentions. And I'm not taking away from that. But everybody seems to be able to describe the problem. And except for saying, that there'll be a fight, or a strong voice is needed, kind of, I'd be forgiven in describing them as kind of cliched statements a little bit. I want somebody not only to hear us, because I think we're heard, but to do something about it. And I'm frustrated, and I put a lot of hope in the Social Democrats, because they're effective as an opposition party. They are so very effective. Talk to me about the social infrastructure issues in Celbridge and in North Kildare, and what, in your view, could actually be done to shake it up.
Hmm. I I share those frustrations, and again, I think, like we said earlier on, it's almost the reason why I got involved in politics in the first place, to be honest, was working in those services, working in the sector, and seeing those issues come up time and time again. That there's families out there left fighting with each other for school places or GP services, or traveling 20 or 30 kilometers for a playground for their kids, or assessment. I spoke to families the other night where they had a 9 month wait for an assessment of need, and then had to travel 3 hours by car to go and have that assessment, and then potentially, and that's for a private assessment of need. That's not a
Mhm.
public. So I want to be really honest and say we all know the issues, and to that extent, the words are kind of hollow.
Yeah.
My actions, and I think what we've proved over time is that it comes down to actions. And I think what irks me a little bit is that we're hearing a lot of government representatives saying that it's time for change and it's time for a fresh approach, and it's time, but it's meaningless, because you've had the opportunity to make these changes. Your party has had all of the power to make these changes, but we've seen nothing in Kildare North. Certainly seen nothing in the entire county, because in many ways we're being left behind. Now, it's not simply just because government don't care. Let's really understand the analysis of this situation. There's workforce issues. There's an awful lot of issues at play here. And I know it's complicated. It's not as easy as we care more about it than others. It's not that, but we do prioritize it. And I think that's where it's really important. You've got parties right now saying we will offer tax cuts and we will also improve public services. The simple answer is we can't do both of those things. We can't cut taxes and also improve public services. We actually have to be quite aggressive and ambitious about our tax base, but it's what we do with that. And the last budget, I think, is the absolute perfect example of what government parties believe is the priority, and that is to give short-term payments in the hope that that equates to support at the polls. But actually, no one that I'm knocking on the doors in is saying, we want tax decreases. Everyone is saying we want to be able to stay within our community, to walk to a local GP service, not have to give 2 weeks' notice to be sick. I
Mhm.
want my kids to go and play in the playground, to be insured of a local school place. And to us, that's about getting the basics right again. But
What I'd like to see, in terms of the challenge there, and you're right, it is about getting the basics right again, and it is also about what irritates me and a lot of other people, and I'm not just saying that, from my own political point of view, but I mean, I get the amount of PMs I get, especially coming up to election time with different issues and all the rest of it, because people they know that the interviews are coming up and they want to have these issues kind of, in theme, which I understand, but what if I was to bring it down to one problem for me, and what I'm picking up from other people, is that COVID and the war in Ukraine are treated as emergencies. Yet the social infrastructure issue within North Kildare and around the country is not being treated as an emergency. And it comes down to prioritisation. And I have to hand it to Fianna Fáil. I have to hand it to them on the ramp up in housing delivery. Housing has come here, as you've said yourself. There has been an increase in housing delivery, and that is a problem to be solved. But what I can't understand why there hasn't been an equivalent mini emergency in the education brief, an equivalent mini emergency in the health brief. I just don't understand why they can't walk and chew gum at the same time sometimes. And it just strikes me as we need something investigative there,
Mm.
actually, because it makes no sense to me that these representatives might come into government with genuinely the best intentions, and I
Yeah,
give everybody that
yeah,
respect,
yeah, so would I.
and it still doesn't get done.
Yeah,
So, look, I'm glad to talk to you about it, and I'm happy that you're going to go in.
it's
I
planning, Trasa. It's back to planning.
it
I don't think we
is.
do planning very well.
What
And
we're planning for now is things that should have been done 10 years ago. Like, when are we going to start planning for the actual future? This is the thing. We seem to be always in catch up short term mode,
yeah,
and it's just 10 kinds of wrong. I mean, look at Sláintecare, where are we with that?
yeah,
Um, Moving on to Castletown, and check how we are for time. We're all right for another few minutes. Your party colleague, Claire O'Rourke, who represents Celbridge, she's a Celbridge councillor, is synonymous with the fight for Donnacomper and for Castletown, along with Friends of Castletown, obviously laterally Save
yeah,
Castletown, and
yeah,
I'm a part of that for my part. And Councillor Nuala Colleen of Leixlip has brought robust support to the campaign to get things right for Castletown, and Catherine Murphy has been there with us through thick and thin. You and I haven't had a conversation together about Castletown, but something just unusual cropped up this week in one of the interviews, and there was a suggestion that the KIC campus solution was temporary, in that once we reunite the domain, it wouldn't be needed anymore. And I thought, well, that, funny enough, that logically makes sense, but I don't like it.
mm,
Um, I want whatever is happening on the KIC campus solution to be permanent. You know what I mean? Now, we don't need any more plasters on Castletown. We need to set it up right and do it well. While my husband recycles bottles
mm.
10 yards away. I'm sorry, I don't know if you can hear that
No,
clinking.
you're all good.
He's doing a trip to the recycle bin. Forgive the noise. Um, Anyway, the suggestion is that the real route to a permanent solution is to reunite the domain. What's your response to that?
Yeah, I think what I hope the community has felt over the last year has been a real teamwork response to Castletown. What we have seen is a situation that shouldn't have arisen with regards to the lands and that whole situation arising. I think Catherine, Claire, Nuala, and more importantly, the community's response to this, I think, has encouraged finally the OPW to sit up and take notice. I think that KIC solution needs to be permanent, absolutely. But I also think that we need to be guided. So what's really important, speaking to Catherine so often at canvassing sessions, she says the one issue that will keep her in politics, even if she's not standing for election, is Castletown. She won't rest. To be honest, it's just genuinely that is the key issue for her because of the impact that it has had every canvass, whether we're in Kilcock, Leixlip, Celbridge, or Maynooth. Genuinely, every canvass it comes up periodically in some of the outer towns, unbelievably consistently in Leixlip and Celbridge, to the point that it would be one of the most important things that I take over from Catherine from a point of view of being hopefully in committees where we can really push and pursue this. But I really want to take that opportunity to reassure people that the Social Democrats, I think it can be seen, it's been a team effort
Yeah.
with the councillors, with Catherine, but also the groups that have been working on the ground have been the blueprint for how a community should respond and advocate for themselves in a constructive, in a fair, in a progressive way. To the point where I'd be nothing but hopeful that we have a resolution in sight, you know.
That comes down to, continuing resistance by everybody to accept,
Absolutely.
a substandard response from the government on this, and I mean that is still at issue. We're about to presumably have yet another change in the ministry. Do you agree, a yes or no on this one? Do you agree that the lands should be CPO'd? The lands
Yes.
now, you do. Okay. Would it be of your view that, let's say, in the unlikely event, and I say unlikely because I know how hopeful you are and how strong the Social Democrats campaign is, but if you're back on the council, this time 3 weeks, let's say, Will you be a voice for that and for pursuing solutions through KCC? Because KCC haven't really covered themselves in glory here either. And I think that the purchase of Donnacomper is it's going to be their answer to everything. You can see the writing on the wall, but we just bought you Donnacomper. It's so significant. It's extremely significant. But what are they going to do with it? I'm worried about that, Aidan. I have reasons to be worried about it too. And I don't like that there seems to be a drip of information about the now combined estates of Castletown and Donnacomper. I say combined because they're both in state ownership, those lands north and south of the Liffey River. And I don't see any clarity coming out of KCC, and I don't want that concern to turn into suspicion. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
This needs to be a kind of a positive conversation, and it needs to be transparent, and it kind of needs to be quick at this stage. People have completely run out of rope on it. One other question in relation to the location of the old road. OPW released a statement last year to say that the old road was on the south side of the river through land now owned by KCC. Now, KCC, because of the shape of the parcel of land that KCC had owned before that, KCC owned the strip of land, along the river that OPW were actually pointing out. And they always did, even before they bought this extra parcel in Donnacomper Domain. I'm concerned that KCC, that was a public statement made by OPW, and I'm concerned that there was no public response to that statement when in fact it is mistaken and it is causing distress. The location of the old road was on the north bank of the river. It went right through Castletown Domain, and the only reason that OPW are denying it that I can think of is that it doesn't suit them to have a public pedestrian right of way along the riverside through Castletown. What have you seen of the research on that, or are you still coming up to speed on it? And how do you feel about championing an establishment of fact on that question?
Yeah, I think it's crucial. I think it's really, really crucial. And I don't mean to keep harking back to the same thing, but I think it's just really, really important because it's the perfect example of what Catherine has done as a public representative, I think, over the years in terms of the other situations where the detail is of critical importance. And what we have done with regards to our approach to Castletown is the exact same. And it all links. Like, Tressa, to be brutally honest, like, we have had people in tears at their doors talking about the importance of Castletown. This just isn't something that's, an optional extra in a community like Celbridge and Leixlip. This is of critical importance. And so for us, it has taken that approach of seeking transparency, of seeking openness, and then challenging that in a way that brings the solution. But I really want to be clear, it's the team effort that will continue after Friday, irrespective of Friday. Friday is irrelevant in many ways. When it comes to Castletown, what we require is anybody who is elected to commit to transparency, to commit to absolutely ensuring that we can return Castletown. That is of crucial importance. And I just hope that I can convey that message this morning, that in any way, shape or form that I or the party can contribute to that or have continued to contribute to that, we will do by listening first. Listening to people, looking at the evidence that has come out, whether it's from Kildare County Council, from the OPW, from government ministers, but most importantly from the community. And we will not stop until the community says we are happy.
I'm glad to hear it. Will you be a complete and utter pain in the ass when it comes to Castletown if you are walking the halls of Dáil Éireann and you're in touch with those people, and if you have the ministry yourself, let's say, it's not impossible, but if you are in touch with whoever has that brief, that you will go in there and not go in there to make friends, but go in there to make a difference in that brief. Transparency is unbelievable, but the culture in OPW is a significant problem, and it is not discussed enough. We would be a long way from where we are now if the culture was different, I feel, because the community has been so badly wounded by what's happening.
Yeah.
Thank you for that. And you never know, at some stage in the near or distant future, we may find ourselves at the same stakeholder table. You never know if you're into representing there. You were at an event this morning, and I want to talk to you a little bit about that. Tell us what you were doing and talk to me all about it. I'm going to leave you with the headline on it because you'd explain it better than I could.
Well, I suppose to keep it very brief, I think in Kildare we've got one of the fastest growing populations in the country, and a huge population of that is young people. And obviously, my career as a youth worker and a community development worker in projects in Selbridge, in Nace, in Leixlip, in Kilcock, has just it's what drives me. It's what really motivates me, because I think if we really nurture young people in our communities, the dividend and the knock-on effects that has right throughout our community and sector is really, really important. So to get the opportunity to co-write and launch a policy on young people, for me, it was a really proud day actually as a member of Social Democrats. So we did that this morning, and really what it's trying to do is to highlight the fact that we always say young people are our future, and I don't like that. I don't agree with that, because I think it's a little bit dismissive of the fact that they actually are here today, and they might be the voters of the future, but they
Interesting
have needs
perspective, and
today.
a lovely way to look at it. Sorry, continue. I like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what we did was we kind of outlined a number of different things in our policy that we would love to achieve. Um, I I have these. I allow myself daydream every so often about what the future might look like, and to be in the ministry with responsibility for children and young people is something that just I would absolutely cherish, because I think, again, when it comes, there's so much right, but there are some really structural flaws again when it comes to maybe mental health services, youth work services. Um, there's quite a sincere apathy out there when you speak to young people about what their future might look like in Ireland. And quite often that future tends to look like it might be in a different country. And I don't want that. I want people to have the choice to absolutely go and travel and see the world, as long as it's a choice and an opportunity, not a necessity. And an example of that would be to see real increase. We and many others have fought hard for youth work service in Selbridge, and that was refused by the government a couple of years back. We really see that there's a need for that service to be there. But right throughout the county, we need to see improved services. We want to see a €150 sports and culture card for children and young people aged 6 to 18, because we believe everyone should have the opportunity to play a sport, play music, get involved in drama, just something that encourages their kind of civic society a little bit. Because the prices of those memberships have gone up, and that's completely understandable given the costs associated with running a soccer club or a GAA or an athletics club. But I would observe that there is a certain class of young people that are maybe being held back from being able to participate in that, and I just don't think that's equitable and fair. It's not the responsibility of the clubs; it's the responsibility of the legislature, and I think that's really important.
Well, that's a novel idea. So, like a leaf card, but for sporting and
Yeah,
social, and I suppose cultural
yeah.
engagement with different. It's a really interesting idea. I look forward to it, because it's only just been launched, and I haven't the amount of manifestos now that
Oh, yeah, of
I haven't gone
course.
through it yet. But I look forward to that, and I like that idea. Now, but I can't let you go without asking you, did you get your PhD in on time that time? Because Aidan and I were tic-tacking folks on a potential interview to talk about, was it KCC underspending? I think that was our topic, wasn't it, Aidan? Yeah.
Yeah,
And we never got there. And that's why
yeah.
this is our first interview together. But I remember working or being conscious that I couldn't just ram an invitation your way either, because you were about to put your PhD in and you were under pressure. Did you get it in?
It's in.
What's the title?
Oh God. So professional youth work in Ireland, an occupational study. So we did a survey. I did a survey with 140 youth workers around the country to learn about their perceptions of their profession. So to get the department wouldn't keep data on what youth workers are paid or what type of work that they're doing. So it was 4 years of it was real
Slog.
privilege. It was real privilege, but that last couple of months, my, there was it was really, and I don't tend to time things very well, because the first draft was due the week of the local elections, and then the
Oh
final
God.
draft was due
Oh
the
Jesus.
31st of October. So
Nothing
next to
worse. Did you go
climax.
full anorak on it, Aidan? Did you go
Yeah,
all the
and
way?
yeah, it
Okay.
was
Good
the
man.
only
And
way.
when do you know how you get on? How does it work with the PhD? I don't
So what
have
they
those
said is
clues
that my
yet.
Viva will be in February or March.
Right.
So because I work in the university, I've got two external examiners for that. So one is
Okay.
from Australia and then one is from the UK.
And
Or
they review and then decide whether or not you get
exactly.
your
Yeah.
wow. Okay. Well, the
Yeah.
very best of luck with
No,
that.
thanks.
Um, I'm going to have to wrap it up, because I'm looking at how we are for time, and it's a pity that this is our first conversation like this. I know it's fresh in a way, because I don't know you. I'm obviously only getting to know you, but I'm not alone in that. There's a lot of people just getting to know you as well. So I suppose that's the point, isn't it?
Yeah.
What I'm going to do is I'm just going to uh, wrap us up a little bit. But before I do, I'd like to give you an opportunity to say a parting word to the audience here. Guys, if you're watching and you have questions or comments for Aidan that you'd like to get in at any stage over the next while, Aidan has told me that he'll be able to come in and have a little look at the comments, and himself or his team might be able to pick up on a couple of those. So do feel free, come on in under the comments and ask your questions, because I'm sure there'll be moments when you're maybe frozen off the campaign trail, or Storm Bert
I
comes
know, yeah.
and decides to interfere with things. So you might have a chance to have a look at a little bit of one or two. But for now, Councillor Aidan Farrelly, maybe future Dr. Aidan Farrelly, will you give us a parting word, and I'll wrap us up then, if that's okay.
Thanks, Tressa. And again, just to really reiterate my thanks for the opportunity to come and speak with you this morning. And this campaign has been like the privilege of a lifetime to spend so much time. Actually, I feel so lucky to have been able to spend so much time with Catherine over the last couple of months. And it's been a kind of a double-sided campaign, this one. I think number one, it's an opportunity for people to say goodbye and thank you to Catherine for her service over the last number of years in Leinster House, but also for me to try and at least introduce myself to the community of North Kildare wider. And I really mean it when I say that I will do my best to earn people's trust. That takes time, and I can just assure you that right now I have learnt everything that I know about being a public representative from Catherine Murphy and from the team of us here in the Social Democrats. And I do believe that now more than ever, we need a Social Democrats TD in Kildare North with the issues, with the challenges that we face. And I would love to be coming back to you in a couple of years after the election goes well to be able to say, look, it's not perfect still, but that we're showing that we listen, that we care, and that it can be better.
Well, you can absolutely bet that I'll be on to you. Forget about 2 years, Aidan. I'll be on to you. I'll be on to you once a month on things.
Brilliant.
Most likely, I'll have you absolutely hounded. Aidan, you're looking for people's number one vote on Friday. What are you thinking about turnout? Do you feel it's a I shouldn't introduce another question when I should be really signing
No,
off.
yeah.
Do you think it's going to be a flattish sort of a turnout? I'm feeling a collective yawn from the electorate here now, from my tiny little spot in the observing things. What do you think about turnout, and do we need people to come out and vote?
Well, it's crucial. It's crucial. I think ultimately, I think this vote is a vote of confidence in the last government. And I think turnout will reflect that. Whether we have a real opportunity for significant change is to be seen, and that's up to the electorate. But I really do encourage, just use your vote. I genuinely have met so many people who don't know yet, haven't decided yet, or don't intend to use it. But I think what we need to make sure is that when it comes to the issues that are important to us and important to you and your families, if they're reflected in our vision for what an Ireland looks like, come out and support us. And if not, then talk to us about how we might be able to change those. I think that's really, really important. But exercising that, having worked so often with young people who can't vote and they're only dying to vote, really would encourage, if you can at all, to get out and use your vote, because it's the one way that we can communicate a collective message to those in power.
And of course, affect the change that the Social Democrats so urgently want to see. But look, this has been a lovely conversation. An earnest and hardworking person who is really, really dragging around a pair of enormous shoes, as I said at the start, and showing everybody how he can fill them. And I think that's something to be admired, because it's not an easy task. She is a hard act to follow. But we have an individual here in Aidan Farrelly who is looking for your number one vote on November 29th. And I look forward to seeing how the election goes. I will see you in person at the count, Aidan.
Brilliant, great.
But for everybody else who's watching, thank you for joining us. Pop those questions in underneath. This will be on podcast in probably half an hour or an hour if you want to catch it there, or on replay in the Savage Politics group. And that's it from us. Good afternoon ahead, and see you tonight. Take care.